Hello and welcome to the Philly Fast Break podcast. I am Sean Kennedy, joined as I am every week by our NFL handicapper Dan Urda. Of course, the every week is a bit of a euphemism. We did take last week off as I was out on vacation, but Dan did go 4-1 in my absence. Of course, you can follow all his plays on Twitter at GamblingDan88 or via his weekly column at The Branded Sports. So good job by Dan going 4-1 last week. Before we talk with him, I do want to thank our sponsor, JoannaPlot.com, for all your life and relationship coaching needs. So check it out. The website, joanna-platt.com, or you can check out the Love Always Joe podcast available either through the site or on iTunes. So thank you to them for sponsoring, and now let's get talking with Dan. So Dan, 1-3 2 weeks ago the last time we talked, but you do have an open teaser from that, and then 4-1 last week. What's going on in the world of football while I was out of the country? What were the main takeaways from last week for you?
Well, on the home front, not only is the Eagles' season likely over, but now there seems to be a lot of dysfunction in the organization, and apparently the medical staff is extremely shady. I don't know if you saw everything that came out today with Carson Wentz. Now he has a back issue, and there's questions of whether or not this has been lingering, and they've been doing the varsity blues thing where they've been injecting him and letting him play anyway.
Fractured back doesn't sound good for your starting quarterback.
Doesn't, but the injury he has will be healed by next year, so it actually could have been worse. So yeah, they're done. The Eagles are done. What else is going on in the league? The Vikings are also done. It seems like, although the Vikings could still actually make the playoffs.
Yeah, aren't they still in position for the wild card right now?
They kind of are, but they're terrible.
Yeah, they're bad. I don't know. That was an embarrassment. I caught the Monday night game. Were they Monday night or was that the Sunday night game?
Monday night was. No, it was Monday night.
Yeah, that was an embarrassing showing by their offense. Yeah, I know Seattle's defense has been playing better lately, but you'd still like to see them score before garbage time at some point. So, yeah, I think we talked about how the NFC was kind of very deep, and I don't think that's quite the case anymore. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 teams that have a chance, and everybody else is either average or worse. And a couple teams in the playoffs I'm looking forward to betting against in that first round. Whoever makes it out of that morass of like tepid play in the 500 group, that's going to get the 5 and 6 seeds.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that we learn year in and year out, and we never learn from it, is it's so stupid to make declarations after 5 or 6 weeks of the NFL season. Because here we are, we're talking about the NFC and how great they were, and after week 6, so many of the teams that got off the hot starts now look mortal. Now, even the Rams, who I still think are very good, they don't look quite as dynamic as they did the first couple of weeks. And it's crazy. The Giants could make the playoffs.
I'm not ready to go that far.
No,
They'd have to win out, and then they would have to get in at 8-8. And I think as bad as or as not great as some of these teams are, that like the Vikings, I don't think 8-8 is going to make the playoffs as a wild card.
Well, Dallas would have to lose out for that to happen, and foreshadowing, I think that's going to happen this week. But you're right. Going forward, they actually play the Giants the last week of the year. How crazy would it be if that game is for the division?
That would be wild, and I think that would be the perfect encapsulation of the NFC East of the season. if the Giants somehow clawed their way back to win the division at 8-8 on a tiebreak by beating Cowboys in Week 17.
The Eagles were the heavy preseason favorites for the East. After the first couple weeks of the season, it looked like the Washington Redskins were going to steal it just with a hot start, and it could come down to the Cowboys and Giants on Week 17, which is nuts.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to make that leap yet. I think Dallas is going to win it pretty comfortably.
Dallas gets a home game against Tampa Bay next week, so they should be fine.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about them. If I was a Dallas supporter, I think them beating the Eagles last week pretty much clinched it for them. Yeah, so let's dive. You mentioned Dallas and you think they're going to lose this week. So why don't we start talking about these Week 15 matchups?
Well, real quick, you were in Iceland last week. Did they have coverage of the NFL in Iceland?
So they're 5 hours ahead. So the night games were going on in the middle of the night. So like the Thursday night game would have started at like 1:30 in the morning. There was a bar called American Bar where I believe they had all the football helmets on the walls. So I would have liked to think they would have showed all the games.
Did they hire a marketing team to come up with a name?
Yeah, I think they did. I think they put it in Google Translate or something, what they wanted to call it. Yeah, it was literally called American Bar. I wasn't actually there on a Sunday. We got in Monday. We flew out Sunday night our time and arrived Monday morning. It was an overnight flight, and then we left on Saturday night. So I actually wasn't there for a Sunday, so I didn't know about that. But yeah, for the primetime games, they would have been in the middle of the night. So
All right.
didn't really explore my options for seeing if I could catch any of the games. But yeah, so this week, week 15, we are recording this Thursday night, but the game that's about to start is Chargers KC. That should be a good one. Do want to note that there's 2 Saturday games this week. We have the start of the Saturday season when people are even more frustrated with their spouses because either guys or girls are too concerned about watching football for 3 straight days rather than and 4 or 5 in a lot of cases rather than the usual situation where at least Saturday you can consider a day to spend with your family or your significant other. So Houston and the New York Jets is Saturday afternoon, and Cleveland Denver is Saturday night. So Dan, I have 3 plays this week. How many do you have on your docket?
So I'm closing out the teaser that we started 2 weeks ago. And other than that, I have 3 separate plays as well. So let me close out the teaser real quick to start, and then we'll go play for play the rest of the way.
All right. So what do you got for us?
What I have for us first is right now, according to the Action Network line, New England is all the way up to -3 at Pittsburgh. And we're going to tease that up to 13 and take the Pittsburgh Steelers as 13-point underdogs at home. I just think that this game is going to be an excellent game. I'm very excited to watch it. I know Pittsburgh's been struggling very much. If you read my column on thebrandedsports.com, Oakland was actually one of my plays last week because I really like the spot for them. And Pittsburgh's in a little bit of a funk, but Pittsburgh tends to do that. They tend to lose those crazy road games against terrible teams. And then when they're home against New England, who is, the cream of the crop in the AFC, that's when they'll step up and play a good game. I do expect them to keep it close. And like I always say, there's no reason to talk that much about the teasers because, of course, it's going to sound good with 10 points added to the spread. I think getting a very good team at home and 13 points is a very safe bet.
Yeah, the Steelers have that kind of home road split where as far as team play historically. I'm actually I have a play in this one, so I'll talk about that here. I like the over 52 in this game.
That's one of my plays as well.
All right, so we're both on over 52. I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign, but yeah. Last week with the New England Miami game, I know that that was a fluke. The Miami Miracle was a incredibly fluky play, and New England should have won. But even disregarding that play itself, we kind of saw with Miami getting as many points as they did, how slow New England's defense is. And that was against Miami, who, Drake's okay and Kenny Stills is fine, but compared to the weapons that the Steelers have at their disposal, even without James Conner, I think Jalen Samuels he's okay as a replacement. But with Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't think that the New England has the kind of athleticism in their defense to stick with those guys. McCourty's a good player, but aside from that, I don't really know if they have the speed to keep up with those guys on the outside. I think Pittsburgh should be able to move the ball pretty consistently. And New England, they looked like they got back into their zone a little bit last week. Gronk looked as good as he has all season, aside from stumbling on the last play of the game, trying to tackle Drake. But yeah, he had a good game. Edelman and Gordon both had great games. They have Michelle and Burkhead both back in the backfield to help out James White. So it's as healthy and as many weapons at Tom Brady's disposal as they've had all season. I expect them to be able to, put up plenty of points in this one. And as I said, I think Pittsburgh should be able to do the same. I think the winner in this one will be in the 30s, and I don't expect the defenses to shut either side out. So, yeah, no, I think like a 31-27 game is in the works. Yeah, and I think regarding your teasing this up, I think Pittsburgh at home, at the very least, they're going to keep it close, or they're not going to lose by double digits. Like they'll have an opportunity to, make back the recover to make it a one-score game or something. But
let's go real quick. New England on the road this year lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, they've been really bad.
Lost to the Detroit Lions. They did beat the Bears, which was a very impressive road win. They beat the Bills when the Bills had Derek Anderson starting. They lost to the Texans. I don't know why I said Tysons. I think I was watching that Mike Tyson documentary.
Yeah, that's not the Buster Douglas 30 for 30. Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say the Tysons aren't a team. It was like a Titans Texans collaboration. You had it in your mind there.
And they beat the Jets, but then they lost to the Dolphins. So that's a lot of struggles on the road for the Patriots. And we've been joking for the last 5 years that every time the Patriots lose, all those hot takes come up. Are the Patriots done? And the answer is always no, the Patriots are not done. But I do think that this is the first year where they're still a good team. They're still probably a favorite to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC, except for, I think Kansas City could beat them. I think San Diego could beat them. But they're still a playoff team. But this is the year where I do think they're a tier lower than they've always been.
Yeah, they're definitely taking a step back. The defense isn't what it once was.
Well, yeah. Gronk playing safety just doesn't work out.
I thought that would have fixed all their problems. But yeah, you're right about the road difficulties for them this season. So yeah, I think it wouldn't surprise me if Pittsburgh won this game outright. So getting them at 13, that seems perfectly fine in my book. Did anything else you want? So you said over 52 is a play for you as well. Anything else you want to touch on regarding that I didn't mention?
No. So we both like the over, and I'm closing out the teaser by taking the Steelers plus 13. So a lot of action on that game.
All right. So over 52 for both of us, stands on plus 3 with Pittsburgh to close out a teaser. All right. My, I guess, second play of the week. I like Green Bay getting 6 in Chicago. Bears looked great last week. They beat the Rams. I think this line's a little inflated because of that. I have no disrespect for the Chicago defense. They're tremendous. Best defense in the league, according to DVOA. But Mitchell Trubisky, even in the win last week, he didn't look great. Their only touchdown was a kind of a trick play to the offensive lineman around the goal line. He's sailing passes left and right. They don't have a consistency on offense that you'd like to see for a team that's a 6-point favorite. I think Green Bay we always talk about it with the NFC East, and it's how rivalry games, I tend to think they're closer than you might based on talent level. And obviously this is a divisional rival game between Packers and the Bears. And getting 6 with Aaron Rodgers, they got McCarthy out of there, and I don't think Joe Philbin's a good coach by any means, but I think there was a certain lightening of the room with McCarthy's departure. There was seemed like a lot of building tension between him and Rodgers, and I think just getting McCarthy out of there has probably helped them play a little bit looser. We saw that they had a good performance against Atlanta last week, so I just think 6 is too much. I still think Chicago probably wins this one, but I think Green Bay will either keep it close or this is prime Aaron Rodgers backdoor cover potential with a 6-point spread. So I'm taking Green Bay getting 6 on the road.
Yeah, this isn't the second podcast in a row that this isn't really good radio, because I completely agree with you. This was the final play that I cut from my actual plays, just because I talked to a couple people who are Bears fans, and apparently since week 1, when Green Bay came all the way back and had that miracle comeback against the Bears, they've been circling this game, and I could see a scenario where Chicago's defense is just completely destructive and literally smothers Green Bay the entire game to the point where they can't even really score. Maybe Chicago would win like 17-9 and still cover the spread. That's the only reason I dropped it. But for all the reasons you said, basically verbatim, it was on my short list, and I do like the play.
All right, so I'm taking Green Bay +6. What's next for you?
Next for me is the Indianapolis Colts -3. They are home against Dallas. Dallas is one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They basically, I think they have like a 99% chance to win the division after beating the Eagles last week. And I kind of just think they don't care about this game. They won their big one against the division rival on Sunday. There might be a little bit of celebrating, a little bit of lack of focus. It's a road game against Indianapolis. They know they have Tampa Bay at home the following week, and then a game against the Giants. They don't really. It's not as important of a game to them as it is for Indy, and Indy is home, and they absolutely do need the game. One of my plays last week was the Colts as an underdog on the road, which I'm sure you would have agreed with me on that one. It was a very bad line, in my opinion. But I think Indianapolis takes care of business. Give me Frank Reich over Jason Garrett any day. Give me Andrew Luck over Dak Prescott any day. Look, I got to respect what Dallas is doing. As an Eagles fan, it sucks to say that, but they are playing well. They have momentum, and this is the time of year where you want to get momentum. But I kind of just think this is a game where Dallas is not in a position to put forth its best effort, and Indianapolis is.
Yeah, I like this. Frank Wright has that Indy team playing great. They've been awesome on third down, which is something that the Eagles kind of excelled at last year and was a big reason they ended up winning the Super Bowl. And I think with the Eagles' struggles on third down this year, that's something that people have been pointing to as a causation with Reich's departure. Maybe he had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and you look at the other guy, the three guys behind the Eagles' offense last year, Peterson, Reich, and DeFilippo, who just got fired by the Minnesota Vikings. So you look at where Peterson's at right now, you look at where DeFilippo's at right now. What does that tell you?
Yeah, looks like Frank's the guy, the man with the plan last year.
Mastermind behind the operation all along. Maybe he should have been writing books in the offseason.
Yeah, although I found it interesting with Peterson's book how it was kind of all about let's go for it on fourth down and be bold and all that. And then coming into the season, he was much more conservative than he was last year. I didn't quite understand that.
Did you watch the game? Did you watch the game on Sunday?
The Dallas game?
Yeah.
Yes, I
did. Like, did you see like highlights or a replay or whatever?
No, I was home by Sunday. I saw that whole game.
Okay, you're back by then. Old Doug, when the Eagles scored the touchdown in the fourth quarter to become within one, he would have gone for two and gone for the win.
I didn't hate that just because I did kind of agree with his logic that Dallas would have been more inclined to push for, like they would be more comfortable going for overtime in that situation because there were still like 80 seconds left. Then if they were down one, they would obviously like go for it at all costs to try to win the game.
If you're scared of a team going that many yards in 80 seconds, then that's a problem with your defense.
No, but so that was part of it, and then also I just thought the offense had been struggling, so I didn't feel super confident about them converting a 2-point conversion in that situation. And the defense had actually been playing really well. I mean, aside from the secondary getting torched by Amari on a couple plays, like there was a lot of drives where they held up, even though the Eagles were going 3 and out, and they kind of kept the Eagles in the game for a long time. So with the offense having finally given the defense a little bit of a rest, I kind of felt okay about it. Obviously, it didn't work out, but that was one of the situations where I didn't think it was like a no-brainer for him to go for 2 there. So I'm usually a guy that says, be more aggressive in those type of situations, but I saw where he was coming from in that. I wasn't ready to kill him over it.
And in an ironic twist of fate, most conservative coach on the planet, Jason Garrett, ends up being the risky one, going for it on fourth down in overtime, and it worked out for him.
Yes, it did. Yeah, and he was rewarded with the W and maybe even a contract extension in this offseason. We'll see. After people thought he was going to be fired for sure about 2 months ago.
Please, as an Eagles fan, please extend Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
The football gods appreciated his ballsiness so much that they made the ball deflect off of Rasul Douglas's arm and go right into Amari Cooper's hands.
I know. Really bad luck for the Eagles there on that play. But yeah, getting back to the Colts Dallas game. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a letdown spot for Dallas after a big win at home against a division rival to more or less lock up the division. I mean, we talked about them and the Giants, and it's not a mathematical certainty at this point, but they're in a really good spot. And now they're going on the road. The Indy team needs this win a lot more than Dallas does. They're playing really well for the most part over the last couple months. Luck and Hilton have their connection back with Hilton, being back in the lineup, and I like this a lot better at 2.5. It's up to 3 now. At 2.5, I really liked it.
Yeah, that's one of the pitfalls of taping this podcast later in the week.
Yeah, but maybe just if you're listening, just buy the extra half point and buy it down to 2.5. But yeah, even at 3, I still like it. I think Indy at home needs it more. Dallas is coming off a big win, so letdown potential. So I agree with your spot here. Indy -3 for Dan. All right, my third and final play is a 3-team teaser. I'm taking Houston up to +3 from -7. I'm taking Seattle up to +6.5 from -3.5, and I'm taking the Rams down to -1.5 from -11.5. Houston, talk about that one first. That's a Saturday game. They are coming off a loss, breaking their couple month-long winning streak, so I like that that's finally out of the way. I thought they obviously had to lose at some point. I'm glad that was taken care of. I don't think they're one of the better teams in the NFL, but they're certainly better than the Jets, who are, down. They're starting running back this week. Darnold had been banged up. He was back in there, but Quincy Nunn was out. They're basically a skeleton crew on offense. Their defense is a middle of the pack team. They're coming off a win against Buffalo last week themselves, so I think zigzag theory being what it is, coming off a win. I like them to lose here. Houston needs a win if they want to stay in the hunt for a first-round bye in the playoffs, which is definitely something that's potentially there for them. If Pittsburgh was to lose to New England this week, they'd be right there for that. So Houston, much better team, a lot more to play for. I'm getting them at +3. I think they win the game, but that covers 1 or 2 point loss at least. Same kind of situation with Seattle, San Fran. San Fran, nothing to play for really at this point. Seattle has been looking great the last month or so. They're looking for a NFC wildcard spot. Getting them at +6.5. I think they win this game, but if they happen to lose by 3 or 4, this covers that. Don't need to go too in depth on that one. And finally, Philly and the Rams Sunday night. Nick Foles in there for the Eagles at quarterback. More than likely, looks like Carson Wentz is out with that fractured back, maybe for the season, but definitely for Sunday. Rams are, again, coming off a loss, so I expect them to bounce back. They're at home now. I honestly think they're just going to roll the Eagles here. The Eagles are picking guys up off the street, putting them in the secondary. Rams have one of the best offenses in the league. So I think they cover 11.5, but I'm getting them at 1.5, so I think they cover that easily. So Houston +3, Seattle +6.5, Rams -1.5. Dan, you have any problems with anything I just listed there?
I don't. I mean, stranger things in the world have happened than the Jets possibly winning a home game against a team whose third wide receiver is former quarterback Joe Webb. But you're absolutely right. They should definitely win the game. I thought about putting them in a teaser somehow. I ended up opting against it, but I did like it. The Rams, we talked about this off air. I've said on this show many times I refuse to bet against the Eagles. I will never do it. There have been times where I've thought that the Eagles were not in a good spot, but I still won't do it just because I cannot watch a game and root for my team, knowing that if they win, I lose money. I was going to break that this week. When the line originally came out at -9 for the Rams, I was going to break it. Now with the Foles injury, it's up to 11.5. I'm not going to do it now because it's over. 10 is such a key number in football games. Rams could dominate the entire game, and Foles could throw a garbage touchdown pass to not cover. But I was very close to doing that. So that just, yes, I agree with you 100%. They should win. Now, Seattle, San Francisco brings me to my final play of the week, which is San Francisco +3.5.
Oh.
We both could win this bet. We don't ever seem to do that when we talk about it, but it is feasible for us both to win this bet. And this is this is to me similar to that Steelers Raiders game last week. You have a West Coast home team, although in this case there's not an East Coast team traveling to play it, but it is a team playing on a short week. I like what I see from San Francisco. George Kittle looks like he might be the best tight end in the history of the world. Nick Mullins looks like he might be the best 49ers quarterback since Joe Montana. And I'm sure I'm not overreacting with either of those statements.
Not at all.
I just like the spot for San Francisco. I like them getting more than a field goal at home. I think Seattle's 8-5, so Seattle could lose this game and still not really be sweating a playoff spot. Seattle's been playing incredible. Me and you are both in on them being like a 3-13 type team this year, and they haven't done that whatsoever. They've been extremely impressive. But I look at this line and I look at the public and what everything's going on. You can't just purely fade the public. You have to actually like the team that you're betting on. But this is definitely a game where I definitely feel they want people on Seattle. I think San Francisco keeps it close. But hey, let's get Russell Wilson and the Seahawks a 3-point win, and we'll both walk home happy.
That'd be fine with me. I'd be even fine with San Fran winning by 3. So you said you have to like the team you're betting on. I saw that Goodwin and Dante Pettis are both questionable now, and they might get Matt Breida back, but that's not a sure thing. So aside from it looking like they need to, they want you to be on Seattle, what exactly do you like about San Fran?
So I was operating under the assumption that Pettis was going to be playing. Goodwin, I believe, is also going to be playing, but I know that he's questionable. I like how San Fran's playing. This team, the Niners, are not playing well because of a couple injuries, but they do have talent on their roster, and they're not a team. They're not tanking. The difference between a couple of draft slots for them doesn't really matter. They have their quarterback for the future. There's really, and people keep talking about this because last week a lot of last place teams won, and people are saying, what are they doing? They're supposed to be tanking. They're supposed to be losing. This isn't a year like that. There's not an Andrew Luck. There's not even a Carson Wentz or Jared Goff this year. The way that the draft is set up, there's really not that much difference between a couple of draft slots. So these teams aren't as incentive around how to say that. They're
incentivized.
Not incentivized to lose as they were in previous years. So you got a guy like Nick Mullins, who was a practice squad quarterback all year. He's getting a chance to play, and he's doing an excellent job. He wants to keep on doing. He wants to keep this train rolling because every little bit of good film that he can put on is a contract he could sign with another team. Obviously, Garoppolo's the guy in San Francisco, but you're telling me a team like the Bills right now wouldn't want Nick Mullins over, and maybe they have Josh Allen, but when Josh Allen wasn't playing and they were signing guys like Derek Anderson and Matt Barkley, there's going to be a team in that spot next year, and they're going to want a guy like Nick Mullins over some of these other scrubs. I mean, probably Colin Kaepernick's better than Nick Mullins, but apparently teams don't want to touch him. But I just like the way this team's playing. They don't look like a team that's trying to lose. They have an undrafted running back playing a lot right now who's playing for his future in the NFL. And these guys don't seem to be like, you know what, we're just going to pack it in and get a draft pick.
All right, so you are on San Fran plus 3.5. I, of course, teased Seattle to plus 6.5, so big middle opportunity for us, though. Hopefully it falls somewhere in the middle and we can both come out winners. To recap everything for Week 15, you're closing out a 3-team teaser with Pittsburgh plus 3. We're both on over 52 in that New England-Pittsburgh game, and you're on San Fran plus 3.5 and Indy minus 3. In addition to that overplay, I like Green Bay plus 6, and I'm taking a 3-team teaser, Houston plus 3, Seattle plus 6.5, and the LA Rams minus 1.5. All right, Dan, so we can follow you on Twitter at GamblingDan88, and you have a weekly column at thebrandedsports.com. Is that everything? Anything I missed there?
No, that's everything. The Branded Sports recently we now have Harry Mays and Eaton Chandler, big names around the Philadelphia area who previously have been on the radio. They're a part of our team now, so come check it out. It's a great site.
All right. Yeah, definitely check out Dan's work there and everybody else at the Branded Sports. Of course, check out phillyfastbreak.com. And
Philly Fast Break's the top priority, but when you're done that and you still have some free time, then check out the Branded Sports.
all right. Yeah, well, all that's really going up on Philly Fast Break these days are these podcasts because all of my basketball coverage can be found at libertyballers.com. So, yeah, check out that as well. And we will talk to you guys for week 16. Enjoy all the week 15 action, everyone.
Take care.